Today we will be setting up the G-Data Management Server on the Microsoft Azure. So the first thing we're going to do is go to azure.com where we can log into an existing Azure account or set up a free trial. I'm going to walk you through setting up the 30-day free trial, which will give you a $200 credit to use the Azure services. So what we're going to do is log into our Microsoft account. If you do not have an account, you can sign up for one on this page or just use any existing account that you already have. Okay, so now that it's logging in, to set up our free trial, we're going to fill in some information as well as confirm a phone number by either a voice call or text and give a payment information that will be used if you decide to continue the subscription after 30 days. Now that we've entered all of our information in, it is going to set up the actual trial subscription. So we just have to wait a few minutes here while it creates the actual account. Okay, now that we see this screen, our actual Azure account is set up, and now we just walk through the basic tutorial here of some of the different things that you can do. So what we're going to do is click the new button in the bottom left-hand corner. We're going to create a new compute virtual machine. Now we choose from gallery, so we can actually choose the version of Microsoft Server that we would like. In this case, we're going to use Windows Server 2012 R2 Data Center. I'm going to go ahead and hit the next button. Now here you can choose the version of Server 2012 R2 that you would like, as well as give it a name and choose how many resources that you want to give the virtual machine. Because this is a trial, you can bump it up even higher if you would like, but I'm just going to set it to one of the basic tiers with one core, 1.75 gigs of memory. That's actually more than enough, and create a user account to be able to log in as an administrator to the virtual machine. Now you will not have any cloud services created, so it's going to go ahead and create a brand new one for you, which is basically where the virtual machine resides in the Azure. And we choose which region of the country or world actually that we would like the virtual machine to reside in. And we don't need to do anything here, but it is a good idea to install the VM agent, which allows the Azure to modify the virtual machine as it's running. Okay, now it is provisioning the virtual machine, so we just have to wait till this is done. Once it's provisioned, we will be able to connect to the virtual machine through RDP, so we can start setting up the G-Data Management Server. Now that the virtual machine is provisioned and the status says running, we can go ahead and start working with it. The first thing we'd like to do are add what's called endpoints. So you click the name of the virtual machine and click the endpoints button at the top. Down at the bottom we hit add, and we put in the ports that we would like the outside world to be able to access on this virtual machine. So I'm going to put in the first GData management server port, which is 7161. Now notice here when I tried to put in just the name as 7161, it didn't work. We do have to have letters before the numbers. So all the ports are TCP, so we're going to go ahead and wait for that to add, and we'll go ahead and add the next ports as well. Now in the bottom right hand corner, we can click the moving bars to see the status of anything that we are currently doing, like adding an endpoint or creating a virtual machine. Anything that you try to modify on any of your services, you can see the status in the bottom right hand corner. Okay, now that one's done, we can go ahead and add the next port. So the next port we have is 7182. Make sure that we put that the same for the public and private port, and go ahead and accept that as well. So you want to go ahead and add port 7183 and 7184 in the same way. So the total ports that we have are 7161, 7182, 7183, and 7184. Now that you have all the ports provisioned, we can go ahead and click Dashboard at the top, and then at the bottom of your screen, click the Connect button. This will download an RDP file that will allow you to remote into your Azure VM. So once the file is downloaded, just go ahead and click it, and it will pop up and ask you for the credentials that you created during the initial setup of the virtual machine. If you get any warnings about certificates, just go ahead and hit accept on those. It's because the certificate that they're using doesn't exactly match up with the name that you created, but you still want to connect, and it is still a secure connection. Now that we are in our virtual machine, we can start setting up some of the prerequisites that I like to do before we install the actual GData management server. One portion of the management server does allow you to access the administrator through an internet browser. So one of the first things that I do is go ahead and install IIS on the server so that when we get to the point where we are setting that up, we'll have all the prerequisites done that we will need to be able to access the server. So what we're going to do is go ahead and hit add roles and features to the server. So we're going to hit next a few times here to choose that we want to install a role and which server that we actually want to install the roles onto. So now it's going to list the roles that we can actually choose from and install on the server. So the first thing that we're going to look for is Web Server IIS. We're going to choose everything there, so go ahead and add features. Go ahead and hit next one more time. Now we will need ASP.NET because this is a Silverlight application, and we also need the ability to activate web services from HTTP as well. So we'll go ahead and choose that. And then also the IIS hostable web core. Now we'll go ahead and hit next one more time. And at the bottom, we do want to install the IIS management compatibility for IIS 6. So we'll go ahead and choose the options in there. And we'll go ahead and hit next one more time. So now it's going to show us everything that we chose. And once we hit install, it will start installing the roles on the server. So for this next part, we're going to have to use Internet Explorer, which has the security mode enabled by default. So let's go ahead and close this window and click the server name on the left side of the server manager. And under there, we can hit IE, Enhanced Security Configuration, and turn it off for administrators. Now we can actually go ahead and open Internet Explorer. We will want to navigate to contronics.com/downloads so we can download the installer for the GData business products. Now the business products do only have one installer that we have to download for every version of the product, so you do not have to worry about getting the correct download. So let's go ahead and start the download and save that. Now that our download is complete, let's head back over to the server manager so we can check the status of the role installation that we started earlier. Once these have completed, we can go ahead and start the installation of the GData management server. So now if we go to the Internet Explorer download window and open the zip file that we downloaded, we can go ahead and go up one and extract this, as we will need the setup files in an uncompressed format to proceed with the installation. Now that the extraction is complete, let's go ahead and run the setup.exe located in the window that popped up. Now we're going to be presented with some options here. The GData management server is the actual server portion that will allow you to deploy and manage clients on machines or other servers. The administrator is the management interface that you can install on any machine or another server to connect to the management server and make modifications to your security environment. The client is the agent that is deployed on either a workstation or server to provide the local protection. The mobile and web administrators make the administrator accessible in a web browser on a server that is IIS enabled. And the boot medium wizard allows you to create a CD or USB stick that can scan an infected computer without booting into Windows. So we're going to choose the GData Management Server option and proceed with our installation. We'll go ahead and hit next here and then accept the terms of the license agreement. And now we're presented with the installation path. We would like to install it in the default location, so we'll go ahead and hit next. So here we're presented with the three types of servers that you can install. The main server is, of course, the primary server that is used to manage the security environment. The secondary is a failover server in case for any reason the main server goes down. And then a subnet server you install at a location as an access point for the clients installed in that location to communicate with instead of communicating over the internet to the main server. So we'll hit next and we're presented with the SQL options that we can use. Now Express is recommended only if you're managing up to 1,000 clients. If you're going over 1,000, then you need to install an actual SQL Server instance. Now we're going to accept a license agreement for the SQL Server portion and proceed with the installation. Now, as the installation finalizes here, we are asked to enter our access data or license information for the GData software. Now, if you have a trial key, go ahead and enter a new license key. Access data is if you have an existing license and you know the username and password, or you can click Activate later and enter the information after the installation is complete. Now that the installation is complete, we'll go ahead and hit finish, and the server will ask us for a reboot. You do have to reboot now, and it will disconnect us from our remote desktop connection. But while that is happening, we can go ahead and add two more endpoints for the web administrator and the mobile administrator that we did not add earlier. So we'll go back to our Azure console and click endpoints, and we'll go ahead and add the endpoints for HTTP and HTTPS. Now that we've added our endpoints, we can go ahead and click back to the dashboard and reconnect by hitting connect at the bottom. Now that the GData management server is installed, we need to configure the host name that the clients will connect to talk to the management server. So what we need to do is open a registry editor and navigate to local machine, software, WoW 6432 node, GData, AVK management server. And here we change the computer name key to your Azure host name. Now your Azure host name can be found on the Azure dashboard on the screen that we have open in the background. So we'll just copy and paste the host name over. Now that that's done, we will need to reboot the server one more time for that change to take effect. So let's go ahead and hit connect and reconnect to the management server. So once we've reconnected, we're going to go ahead and open the GData administrator, which will help us start setting up our security environment. And our goal is to create a client install package that can be downloaded on any system that will connect it to this server. So we'll log in using our administrator credentials for the system. And it will now pop up a wizard, which will ask us to install GData on systems that it can find within the network. Because this is a closed server in the Azure, it's not going to see anything, but we do want to go ahead and install GData on this server. So we'll put in the name that we gave it, click enable, and then we'll go ahead and hit next. And the checkbox to install the GData client automatically on any computers we enabled was turned on. So we'll go ahead and hit next and move on to the update screen. So here is where we'll need to put in our access data for if we didn't do it during the earlier steps, we do have to have it here so that it can connect to the update server to get license information and pull definition and program updates. So we'll set our region to North America and then also schedule updates on the server. So the virus database needs to be updated hourly and the program files will say we'll do weekly. So once we hit OK and hit next, we're presented with the ability to email notifications. You do have to have an SMTP server set up for this, which we do not. So we're going to go ahead and skip this and hit next, which then presents us with the screens for the mobile clients. Now at this time, we're not setting up any authentication for mobile clients. So we're going to go ahead and hit finish and complete the setup wizard. Now it's going to ask you for the server's administrative credentials so that it can install the software that we told it to during the wizard. We'll enter that in, choose English as the installation language, and then it will do a silent install in the background. Now we're going to create the client security installer package that when somebody runs it, it will install the GData software and automatically connect it to this server. So we'll go to Organization, Create Installer Package, and choose the server and language that we would like to use for these installations and go ahead and hit OK. Now it's going to ask us where we would like to save this installer package to. So since we have IIS installed, what I'm going to do is actually put it in the inet pub www root so that it can be accessed from the internet. Now that's going to be created in the background, so now we just have to wait for that to finish. So while we're waiting on that to be created, what we're going to do is go ahead and install the web administrator that can be accessed through a browser. So what we're going to do is go back to our download folder where we extracted the files earlier and run the setup.exe one more time. So now when we're presented with the options that we would like to install, we will choose the web administrator instead of the management server. So as before, we're going to hit next and accept the terms of the license agreement, take the default install location and go ahead and click install to install the administrator. So as the installation completes here, we'll go ahead and hit finish one more time and a window will pop up that will tell us the local address of the web administrator. Now we won't be using this, so we can just go ahead and hit OK and close that. So let's check on the status of our client install package. So let's open Windows Explorer and head to the inet pub www root folder, and we see a GD client pack there. So let's create a folder called downloads that we're going to put this into once we have compressed it into a zip file. Now the reason for this is some browsers don't like to download executables, and also it'll be smaller. So let's go ahead and just compress it and then put the compressed file into the downloads folder. Now that the compression is done, let's go ahead and rename the GD client pack zip to auto.zip and move it into the downloads folder. That just makes it a lot easier for people to remember and to type into a browser. Now we'll head back to our actual computer that we would like to install the client onto and open up a web browser where we go to our Azure address /downloads/auto.zip, which is the folder we just created and the zip file. And what that'll do, will download that client install package to the local system. Once the download is complete, then we just have to extract it and run it. It is a silent installer, so you don't have to worry about the end user changing anything during the installation or asking any questions, because it'll just happen in the background. The installation should be almost complete, so let's head back over to our RDP session and check to see if the system is listed in the management server. So when we switch back over here, we will need to hit refresh in the management server and allow it to update to see any systems that were added. Now we can scroll over and see the current version of the client installed, the current definition updates that are applied, and the last time the client communicated with the server. Now that the client is showing up, the last thing we need to do is test our web administrator. So let's open Internet Explorer and navigate to our Azure web address /G, D, A-D-M-I-N, which will open our Silverlight web administrator. So once we've got that up, we'll go ahead and log in using our administrator credentials. And there we go. It's the same exact thing that we saw on the locally installed administrator, minus the ability to make a client install package. So if you wanted to make another one of those, you would just need to make sure that you use a locally installed client instead of the web version. So now we can add any clients that we want to our management server just by navigating to our download link and running that install package. And they are all fully managed and will communicate with our cloud management server. If you have any questions or problems, please contact your Contronics account manager, and one of them will be more than happy to assist you.